Hi, I'm Mchale, and this week I'm reviewing Now before we start off, as always, I just want to take a quick second to remind you guys to make sure you hit that like button if you liked today's video, and if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well for more new movie related content weekly. But without further ado, let's jump into today's film. Becky was directed by Jonathan Milott and Carrie Mernion and stars Lulu Wilson as a teenage girl forced to protect her family after a neo-Nazi, played by Kevin James, yes, that Kevin James, and his crew, not that crew, ravaged their getaway home in the woods. As you might have guessed, the one thing that really drew me to this film was the fact that Kevin James was going to be playing against type for like the first time ever, and my god, is he really good in this. In fact, this entire film is filled with some pretty great performances, especially Lulu Wilson, who, at this point, I don't think can do any wrong. I can't think of a single project that she's been involved in that turned out badly, especially this. From beginning to end, I think that we really get a good sense of her range. She effortlessly anchors this movie with the evolution that she's forced to go through with everything that happens to her. And it's really fun to get to see her play a good girl, a bad girl, and even a straight-up savage. Joel Mchale is also in the film. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. He plays Becky's father, and like James, it's fun to see him play against type here too. Going back to Kevin James's performance though, I honestly thought at first that I was only enjoying it because it was so new to me and so different from anything else I've ever seen him do before. I cannot emphasize that enough. But the more you get to see his character function and the more you learn what makes him tick, the more you truly come to appreciate how great of an adversary he is here. His character is such a piece of shit. I also have to give kudos to the writers for making him such a smart villain. He may not always be one step ahead, but he's very logical, and every decision he makes is clearly calculated. There's this great part in the film where Becky's forced to use a walkie-talkie to communicate with James's character, and she tells him that she's already gone to a nearby neighbor's house and called 911 and that he should probably leave. But James's character is smart enough to deduce that walkie-talkies have a very limited range, therefore she must still be in or near the house using it, which she is. And it's small things like that that I really appreciated because normal movies like this, or normal characters, villains like James's character, normally wouldn't think about stuff like that. It's very telling of just how intelligent he is. His henchmen, not so much. In fact, you could tell that many of them only serve the purpose to add to the body count. There's only one real henchman that we get some character development from, but he also gets this weird arc that has to do with something that happens, a trauma that he experiences as a result of something that happens earlier on in the film. And I don't want to go too much into it because I do feel like it's on the border of spoiler territory, but his conscience becomes a huge focal point for the film, and then you think it's going to have some major impact on the ending, but then it doesn't. In fact, it doesn't really lead anywhere. Both the gore and the practical effects are also actually realistic looking here. However, the directors make the fatal mistake of emphasizing it all just a little bit too much to the point where it kind of ruins the illusion. And what I mean by that is that at first glance, a lot of the violence looks realistic, but then for some reason after every major kill we get these unnecessary close-ups on the bodies or the blood and the guts, and it reveals just how fake everything looks. It's very counterintuitive in my opinion. One of the best examples I can think of is that in the film one of the characters loses their eye, and at first when their eyeball is hanging out their socket and you see blood everywhere, it looks very convincing. But it isn't until the eyeball is finally severed from the head and tossed to the side that we get one of those unnecessary close-ups and we see the eyeball for the cheap prop that it is. One of the film's best aspects though, uncontested, is its suspense. It's not necessarily a slow burn, but it does such a good job at building up to the action that when the first major character dies, you really feel it. And I think the reason why the suspense is particularly successful is because of the music. With the exception of a couple of oddball song choices at the very beginning of the film, the score is incredible. It does a really good job at evoking all the right emotions out of you at all the right times. And while I didn't really talk about it too much earlier, I also really enjoy the film's direction. One of the biggest questions at this film's core is just how bad is Becky really? We're inclined to think that she's just a very angsty teen who's having a very bad day, but the filmmakers constantly suggest otherwise with their very interesting visual parallels between both Becky and James's character. When we first meet them, while they may be in their own separate habitats, they are both shown in almost identical poses. It's almost as if the filmmakers are suggesting that in some strange way they're mirror images of each other. This idea is further explored in the final confrontation between the two, where James's character tells Becky that from what he's seen, he believes that she's just as evil as him. It's ultimately an interesting idea that is left for the viewer to decide, but this viewer thinks that he just messed with the wrong teenager. In addition to giving Kevin James a new field to play on, this film will probably be remembered as an R-rated take on Home Alone, which is totally fine. Despite some forgivable flaws, though, Becky is still a surprisingly smart and satisfying thriller. And for that, I'm going to give this film 4 stars.
I'm not going to let them get away with this.
Guys, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to view this video. It really does mean the world to me. And once again, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. Now, if you happen to see this movie, if you loved it, if you hated it, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comment section. I look forward to reading and responding to all of your comments because interaction is probably one of my favorite parts about being a content creator in the first place. But yeah, that's pretty much all the time that I have for you guys today. I do have a bunch of other projects that I'm currently working on, so be on the lookout for more new content shortly. In the meantime, I should probably get back to work. Until next time, I'm Dempsey Pallot. Take care.